Let's move on to the McCloskeys, because apparently in this day and age, if you point your guns at black people, that gives you a spot at the RNC, apparently. Apparently, if you take your guns out and you point them at protesters, you become a superstar in the Republican Party. Why do I mention that? Because the McCloskeys were invited to speak yesterday. Listen to this little cut of them speaking to you all at the Republican National Convention.
Good evening, America. We are Mark and Patty McCloskey. We're speaking to you tonight from St. Louis, Missouri, where just weeks ago you may have seen us defending our home as a mob of protesters descended on our neighborhood.
America is such a great country that not only do you have the right to own a gun and use it to defend yourself, but thousands of Americans will offer you free advice on how to use it.
Yeah, hold on.
At least that's what we experience.
I'm sorry. Cut it there for 1 second. I agree with her. She definitely needs advice on how to use a gun, because clearly the way she held the gun, it looked like a hot potato in her hand. So I'm so glad she brought that up, because clearly nobody's taught her how to use a gun, because they both look like idiots, quite frankly. I'm sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
Experienced. What you saw happen to us could just as easily happen to any of you who are watching from quiet neighborhoods around our country.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And that's what we want to speak to you about tonight.
That's exactly right. Whether it's the defunding of police, ending cash bail so criminals can be released back out on the streets the same day to riot again, or encouraging anarchy and chaos on our streets, it seems as if the Democrats no longer view the government's job as protecting honest citizens from criminals, but rather protecting criminals from honest citizens.
That's exactly right. I like it how they wrote that in there for him to read. That's exactly right, wife. That's exactly right. What an embarrassment. I mean, listen, I understand fringe right. They love that stuff. They eat that stuff up. But let's be honest here. These two became...
What do you mean fringe right?
Well, I'll explain.
No, suburbanites, Brian. Anyone who lives in a home, a very expensive home in a nice area of town for a reason, who doesn't expect to deal with problems like the McCloskeys dealt with, eats that up.
So let me explain.
That they're there for the suburban vote.
Okay. So
and 171 million Americans live in the suburbs in the United States, Brian.
All right, so let me be clear. It doesn't matter if
it was smart putting them up there after what happened to them.
It doesn't matter if your home is worth $20 or $20 million.
It does.
Okay, so let me just finish my statement. I'll start over. It doesn't matter whether your home is worth $20 or $20 million. The charges remain the same. It doesn't matter.
That's exactly right.
Yes, it is. Thank you, McCloskey, Mr. McCloskey. You can live in a cardboard box, or you can live in a $200 million home. It doesn't give you the right, and we've been over this before, and I don't want to go over it again. It doesn't give you the right to point your weapons at people that are not on your personal property.
If they're on a private street,
you're not allowed to do that.
And there's enough for them to overpower you and destroy your home and kill you, then in my opinion, you have every right to do that.
First of all,
and I would do the exact same thing under those circumstances.
Like I said,
and I can almost guarantee you 90% of homeowners in that specific situation, after what they had seen take place, particularly in St. Louis, where David Dorn was murdered at a Radio Shack or at a pawn shop, trying to protect his friend's pawn shop, and the looting and the rioting, the protests that had taken place nationwide, they would have thought the exact same thing.
Right, so
and if they had a weapon, they would try to protect themselves as well.
So let me just
there was a few hundred versus 2 people, Brian. What are they supposed to do?
Okay, let me give the facts once again. We've gone over this about 100 times, but I guess we have to go over it again.
Well, you just laughed at them like they're jokes.
Okay, if I could finish.
I'm just defending why they aren't.
Okay, if I could finish. I am laughing at them because they're both buffoons and they're both fools. And the Republican National Convention and the people that make the decision-making.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. McCloskey. Yes, I am right. Okay, it is ridiculous. First of all, nobody was on their, I'll say it again, nobody was on their private property. Now, you could think, well, they were going to rape my wife. I was afraid that they were going to kill us. But the bottom line is there is no evidence that they were on their private property. End of discussion. If they're not on your private property, you can't go out with a gun and point it at people. That is why they are charged. End of conversation.
And that charge didn't stick, Brian.
The reason why the charge
pardoned immediately.
The reason why the charge didn't stick was because there's a Republican governor.
No, because it was the correct thing. It had nothing to do with the governor being Republican.
Okay, if you could please let me finish. The reason why the charges were overthrown, I'm just giving you facts, JD. It's okay. The reason why they were overthrown is because they had a Republican governor who listens, the one member in the audience, that is Donald Trump, a fringe Republican who made all the TV appearances saying that he was going to pardon them. It was a political stunt and a political ploy. The law stands on its own. You cannot point your weapon at some... let me finish, please. You're about to interrupt me again. You cannot point your weapon at somebody if they are not on your personal property, if you don't believe your life is in danger. They were on a private street. They were not on the McCloskeys' private property, period. There's no argument.
They were on a private street. They broke through a iron rod fence on a private street.
Which was not owned by the McCloskeys.
There was enough of them to do whatever they wanted to the McCloskeys and their property, which clearly they valued.
Okay, so it was.
I have no problem with what the McCloskeys did. And again, I bet 90 to 95% of Americans in that same situation would have done the exact same thing.
So the difference being, it's not
about... Which is why they spoke.
The difference being is it's not about whether you have a problem with them or not. It's about whether the law has a problem with it. It's not JD's opinion or my opinion. The law states, I'll say it one more time, then we have to move on. If they're not on your private property and they are not a threat to you personally, which those people were not, there is no evidence to support they even attempted to go into on their private property, then you cannot point a gun at someone, period. But again, if you point your weapon at innocent black people, then I guess you become a star in the Republican Party.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Brian, there was quite a few Caucasians in that mix as well.
Okay,
it was not just African Americans.
Okay, so they pointed their weapon at mostly African Americans and a few white people, if that makes you feel better.